Hey beauties, it's Winnie here again in another video. Do you remember this blouse that I posted the pattern drafting tutorial last week, and then I promised to also post the sewing video? So here it is. The sewing video is here, and if as much as you love the pattern drafting tutorial, if you would also love this, don't skip any part, watch till the end, like my videos and share with your family and friends so they also can benefit from this video. So this was how it looked on my client. It was absolutely stunning and the fit was heavenly. Without too much talking, let's get to the honey of this video. I love you. Hey beauty, welcome to my channel. So I've gone ahead to cut out my pattern. I cut the exact measurement except for the down part that I needed ½ inch more to make my normal blouse length. So don't forget, when we're drafting our pattern, we already added all the allowances to it. So I cut the exact pattern only at the down part because my pattern paper was not long enough, so I added the remaining ½ inch at the down part, and then I labeled every piece, both the lining and the main fabric. So this is the back part, and I've cut everything out neatly in the exact way. The only place I added allowance was at the down part, I mean at the hem. So I cut out 2 pieces of each for the back and for the front, and I cut out lining for each of it also, and also I labeled every part. So now let's start with the front because the front does not really have too much of work to do. So now I'm taking out my pins, and what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be joining my main fabric separately, and I'm also going to be joining my lining separately. If you know how to sew a bustier, you should know how to join this just the way we join a bustier, but the breast pad is not sitting on the main fabric. All right, it's going to be sitting on the lining, so I'm just going to do that real quick. And now it's time to cut our breast pad. So now I went up from my chest line by 1.5 inches, and then I want to stop the breast pad at the under bust area. So I don't want the neckline to be so bulky. That's why I didn't get to the neckline. I just went up from the chest line by 1.5 inches, and then I stopped at the under bust area. And now I'm cutting out my breast pad, which we are going to be adding to the lining. Don't forget, it is not meant to be on the main fabric. And if you are new to my channel and you did not see the pattern drafting tutorial, I'm going to drop the link in the description box. Check the pattern drafting tutorial before coming to watch this video, so that you can really understand what we are trying to do here. All right, so now I've cut out the center front, the breast part for the center front. I'm also going to be using the same pattern to cut out the breast part for the center, for the side front. All right, so once I'm done cutting, then I'm going to shape it out to form the 2 pieces that we need. So now this breast cup, most people do not know how to cut it, so I'm going to be teaching you real quick. You mark the midpoint and then you connect it like a C. Each time you are cutting your breast part, let it be like a C. It shouldn't have edges. You should just draw out your C, letter C, like that, and then you shape it out so that it can, you know, round the bust and give the bust the form and shape that it needs. If it is funny, if you just create a rectangular shape, that's how it's also going to be looking on your client. So make sure it's like a C so that it can be like a bust. All right, so that it can round the bust very well, and you know, it can make everything come out really neatly. So I'm just trying to show the way everything is going to sit. So I'm just going to use my iron to paste it on it, and then I'm going to stitch with ½ inch allowance. So I've gone ahead to stitch with ½ inch allowance, and I added bones to those points that I stitched. You can add more boning channels if you want, but my client did not want a lot of bones on her dress, so that is why I just put it on the stitch line. All right, so now I'm cutting out the excess of the bust area, you need to cut out the excess, because this excess is always add volume to your bust area, and it will not let it lay down flat properly, and it will not let it sit well on your client. So after joining with the 1/2 inch, trim off almost getting to your seam, but don't rip off your seam. All right, so this is it. I've gone ahead to sew it. If you see what I did, I put a boning at the under bust area also, so that it can create some kind of bust caging effect, and it can really give your client a perfect fit. So once that was done, I'm just going to place my lining on my fabric, right side facing right side, and then I'm going to sew it all around. But before I go ahead to sew it, remember the curve, the slight curve that was at the front part of that blouse, if you see the blouse very well. So now I'm trying to pin my lining to the main fabric so that we can create that curve that was at the front line. So I want to cut the lining and the main fabric together so everything can be perfectly clean. All right, so now I'm just trying to pin it together so that it doesn't shift left and right. It's just, sitting well. So now what I'm going to do is that from that point I'm going to mark out 2.5 inches. So after marking out 2.5 inches from that point, I'm also going to go up by 3 inches from the down part like that, and then I'm just going to create my curve. I hope you can see. From that point I went out by 2.5 inches. You can do 2 inches. I think I later ended up doing 2 inches, and then I went up by 3 inches, and then I just created a curve like that. I was supposed to create this curve before attaching my boning so that my boning does not get to my seam line, but I forgot to place the boning 3 inches before the hem line. So that's it. We've created the curve. So now I'm just going to turn the lining with the main fabric, and now let's move over to the back part. So now the back is kind of tricky, so you have to take it one step at a time, pattern by pattern. Don't rush, because if you rush you are not going to get it. So now this is number 1. The first thing we are going to do is to create the loop for the first part of the back. Mommy. So now I'm just going to take out my pattern, and then I'm going to mark out 1.5 inches difference on that point that the loop is meant to sit all the way down. 1.5 inches. Each loop, the space between is going to be 1.5 inches. So that's what I'm going to mark all the way down to the down part. So now once that was done, I went ahead to cut out I'm using my bias strip to make my loop. I don't want to make use of eyelets, just want to use my bias strip to make use of to do the loop. So I'm just going to measure out 3 inches for the strip, and then I'm going to fold it like so, and then I'm going to place it on each point that I marked all the way down. I hope you got it. So everything is going to be 3 inches. So I've gone ahead to do that now, and then I've sewn my modesty panel. So I'm going to be placing my modesty panel on top of it like this, and then I'll place my lining at top of it, and then I'm going to stitch it down. So I've gone ahead to do that. Now see how neat it looks, and I went ahead to turn the other parts of the sides with lining. So now this is the front part, and I want to show us where it's going to be sitting. All right, so this is the front. I said I was going to use the lining to turn the main fabric, so I've already turned the main fabric and the lining, and I'm trying to show you everything that I have done. I'm sorry there is no power. I will have ironed it, but I'm going to do that much later. So let's just move ahead. So now this is number 2 for the back panel. So now the first thing I'm going to be doing is also to create that loop. So don't forget, it's 1.5 inches all the way down, and then I I forgot to tell you that just at the side of this number 1, beside the loop, you are going to place a boning, just one boning channel on that side. But if you want a lot of boning channel, you can also add more, but my client did not want a lot of boning channels. So what I'm doing here for this number 2 is what I also did for number 1. I'm trying to create the space for my bone, so I just went out by 2 inches, and then I marked out ½ inch at the top and ½ inch at the 1 inch at the top and 1 inch at the down part, and then that is where my boning is just going to sit, just the same way that I did for number 1. So I'm just going to do the same for number 2. So now I'm gonna head to sew my boning, and then I attached my loop at the edge. Don't forget 1.5 inch is going to be the distance between them, and then I also placed my lining just as I did for number 1, and then I've sewn it. So this is number 3 for the back. What I'm going to be doing for number 3 is that I am going to place my number 2, the main fabric of number 2 and the main fabric of number 3. I'm going to place it right side facing right side, and then I'm going to stitch it down. Then I'm going to place the lining also right side facing right side, so that everything can come out neat and clean. And this is what it looks like. So once this is done, you can go ahead to create a lot of bone channels on your fabric. Place it on your lining, don't forget, and then just attach your bones to it. But like I said earlier, my client did not want a lot of boning, so that is why I only placed at the loop area, so that it can create a snatching effect when I'm about to wear it for my client. So once I was done turning the lining, I went ahead to turn it to the right side so that you can see what I was doing. So this is how it looked. Everything was clean. I turned the neckline, the down part, and the side after joining the lining and the main fabric separately. I'm sorry that I could not iron it. There was no power at this point when I was making this tutorial, so I had to just try to make the tutorial. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing now is that I'm going to join the front and the back together on the sides. So I'm using the allowances that I left, which is 1.5 inches. So I just joined the front and back together at the side like that, and this is what it was looking like. At this point I was almost through with it, and this was how it was looking like. See, our top is coming together. So now I'm gonna head to give it a very nice press, at least to a minimal level at this point. So see how flat it is laying, everything is clean and fresh. So now at that point there is going to be a cape, something like a cape was around that side. So I just measured out what I have there, so, and the length of how long I want my cape to be. So I'm going to be using my pattern. So now the first thing I'm going to do is to mark out how my cape is going to be. So it looked like a triangle, but a distorted triangle, something slanted. All right, so the first thing I did was to mark out a straight line 1 inch above my armhole depth, and then at the upper part I marked out 1.5 inches, and at that line that I drew a straight line, I marked 2 inches. So I'm going to connect the 2 inch mark at the down part to the 1.5 inches at the upper part. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to draw a straight line at my armhole depth point, and then I'm going to extend the straight line that was coming. So from the down part I went up by 2.5 inches. So I'm going to connect that with a slant like that, and our cape is ready. So the slanted cape is ready. So now I'm going to cut it out now. So now once I'm done cutting it out, I have to place it on a fresh pattern paper because we have to add allowances to the edges. So I'm using this my pattern paper. I don't want it to go to waste, so I'm just going to mark out ½ inch all round, ½ inch all round from the sides to the down part. The only place you are not adding allowances at that upper part, because it's going to be joined to the armhole, so it's not really needed. So I'm just going to add ½ inch allowance all round. So I'm trying to tape it down so that it doesn't move. So I'm just marking 1/2 inch all round, so that by the time we are done sewing it will not be too small. All right, so now I'm just connecting the dots, and then I'm marking 1/2 inch at the down part also, and then I just connected the lines. So I'm just going to cut that out, and we are cutting 2 of this. So this is our cape pattern now. So I'm going to place this on my fabric and cut 2 of this. So we are just going to cut 2 of that. All right, so now and that is what I'm trying to do now. We have gotten to this point and you are not yet subscribed. Why? Kindly click the subscribe button. I am going to be making a lot of corset tutorials from now on this channel, and you don't want to miss it. All right, corset is the new thing that is going on in the fashion industry now, and you don't want to be left behind. So hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out anytime I upload a new tutorial. All right, thank you. So now, once I was done cutting, so I'm just going to go ahead to stitch it all around with the 1/2 inch allowance that I added earlier. So that is what I'm going to be doing. The upper part is not going to be stitched, so I've done that now, and it is going to be sitting at that point just like that. Going to be sitting. So I'm going to stitch it down, and then I'm going to join the shoulder together. So now I was done with that now, and it's time to do the cape part. So I took a fresh pattern paper, and I am going to be draping that pattern paper on top of this my blouse now, the way I want it to be. So just watch the way I'll be draping it on top of the blouse. So at this side there was about 4 pleats, so I'm trying to create the 4 pleats the way I want it to be on the, on the person's body, and then I pinned it down and I took it all the way to the back. So it's going to be sitting right before the loop. That is where it's going to be sitting. So I'm just pinning it down like that. So now at that point I just marked out about 3 inches downwards, and then from the shoulder, that upper part is going to be cut off because it's not getting to the neck like that. So I'm going to cut that place up. So from that shoulder point I marked out 10 inches, but I realized that it was short on my client's body, so I would advise that you go down by 12 inches or 13 inches so that it can drape properly on the person's body. So I just connected the 3 inches to the 12 inch mark, and then I connected it to where the pleat stopped. All right, so now once that was done, I'm going to cut it out. Sorry, my pins were coming out, so I just had to do it properly. So now it's time to cut out. So I'm going to cut it out. So whatever I have on this pattern is what I will use to cut the cape. I just cut out 2 pieces of the cape and I turned it all around, and I just attached it to my blouse just the way I've attached this paper to my blouse. That was just how I attached it, and I used my embellishments to cover the stitch point. It was placed on top of the top, so I just use the embellishment to cover the stitch point. So this is how it's going to be looking. Then at the down part I went ahead to add some custons and some appliques just to beautify it to look like what Tubo really had on. So just the way it is on this paper, that is how it's going to be sitting on my client's body. You are just going to cut 2 pieces and turn it all around. And when I was done, this was how it looked on her. She really loved it. It was beautiful. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Till I see you in my next tutorial. I love you and I care. Bye. So this was the back and that's the loop. I couldn't take it properly, but that was it. Thank you. Bye. Pop.